Thank you for joining us today on our next conversation. Failure is not a, what did you
Person.
call it? Failure is
Yeah.
not a person. Failure is not a person. Sarah had this topic lined up for us today. Her and I are recording conversations to support entrepreneurs and business owners and helping people find all the resources they need to grow their business and make sense of all the mess of things. I empower and protect business owners and their employees with affordable access to on-demand attorneys in all areas of law and licensed private investigators to restore your identity. And Sarah can tell you a little bit about what she does, and then we'll get into our topic.
Sure. So I help small business owners and coaches understand exactly who's in front of them in 90 seconds or less using a system that's scientifically proven to determine why people buy. And it really digs into the values. And what it does is it creates better communication, better relationships, and increase sales up to 300% by making people matter.
Awesome. So go ahead and start with your first ideas for the topic. I really am excited for this conversation today.
Fantastic. So, the entrepreneurship journey is definitely not for the weak. And one of the highlights of the experience is failure. That's right, failure, right? A lot of us, when we set out to do entrepreneurship, maybe we had these dreams of grandeur where we're like, man, all the successes, the wins, I can't wait. When I get to the other side and I've got my vision board and everything, it's like the scene is set for success is inevitable, right? Like I could never fail. It's going to be great. And then as time goes and you head down your own individual path, suddenly you may meet certain personalities named rejection, failure, and other cousins of fear like anxiety. And for some of us who, if failure is terrifying, it can seem like, man, once failure happens, is it me? Am I just not cut out for this? Was it stupid to just get on this journey? Like, what am I even talking about, right? And so we're here today to encourage any of you listening under the sound of our voices that failure is not a person. And that means that you are not a failure. It's an event. It's something that's an ingredient of the success. And, if you could come up with even a comparison, I liken it to something like it's the baking soda of chocolate chip cookies, right? Like baking soda in and of itself, nobody wants to just dig in with a spoon and start eating. It tastes great. Like, no. It's bitter. It's awful on its own. But when just a bit of it is added into other ingredients, you can make something delicious that it's a necessary ingredient for success.
I completely agree. When I started this journey into entrepreneurship 3 years ago, one of my mentors from my business that I originally worked with taught me about failing forward. That was the first time I had really kind of heard of that concept. And then even later on, more recently, as I've worked with a business coach last fall, didn't realize that I was living in fear and lack of confidence. So my word for 2023 has been courage, which he taught me courage comes before confidence. You just have to take the action, whether you're going to fail or not, because you're going to fail at some point or another. And really, it isn't a failure. Everything has a lesson learned. So you always have to be stepping back and looking at what could I have done better? How could I have done this differently? And that's how you learn and grow. Whether it's business or anything personally, you always just have to step back and say, okay, this is what I did. Did I do a good job running that business meeting? Did I do a good job at my networking group? Should I have said something differently to that business owner? What could I have done better? So that was introduced to me, a long time ago and keeps coming up, as I continue to learn and grow. The other big thing is I've dealt with different health conditions, with Crohn's disease, a digestive disease, and back problems since I was 16. And when I was growing up, I was always told by my family, as long as you try your hardest and you did what you could, then you did the best that you could, and there's no failure in that. As long as you try your hardest, you can't look at it as a failure. You just have to say, okay, I did my best and it is what it is, and what can I do better next time? So when I started dealing with those health issues, and I uncovered this again in the past 6 months, what was kind of behind that fear and lack of confidence is that I didn't think I was capable of doing different things because of my past and my challenges that I've been dealing with. But you have to realize that you are capable, whether that's personally, with a family, professionally. It comes from within. Everything we have is already within us. So you just have to look within yourself and say, I am capable, even if I make a mistake, even if I have a issue, I'm just going to learn from that lesson. And then really there's nothing wrong as long as you look at it in a way that you learned a lesson and you learn and grow from that. So it's interesting how I can look back, to when I was younger, 3 years ago, beginning this journey, 6 months ago, learning these things. And, I can't emphasize enough that you have to fail to move forward. You have to fail forward, basically. And so it's always going to be an ongoing process.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a great quote that they say that failure is the tuition for success. And for me, for a long time, failure was something that could be worse than death to me. I don't know if anybody else has felt that way, but it just seemed that, man, if I fail at this, like, what's the point? And I developed the art of avoiding. And I'm finding that avoiding actually is more detrimental during the entrepreneurship journey than it is helpful. There are experts out there that they say, hey, if you want to avoid XYZ pitfalls, do it like this. That's great. And it's wonderful that people want to help. But here's the deal. We all have our own individualized entrepreneurship journey. Here's another comparison for you. It's kind of like when you first learned to drive. Do you remember when you first learned to drive and some of the things that were like, man, maybe this one area was easy, but then this other, for most people, it's like parallel parking. Oh, it is the worst. And for me, what was scary to me was dealing with semis. The part where you're merging onto the highway, right? And the speed limit's 65 of the highway, and you've got this Mack truck, man, 18-wheeler coming, hauling. And it's at the time when I learned how to drive, I had a 93 Saturn. Don't know if you've seen one of those, but those things are, comparatively, that thing doesn't stand a chance against a Mack truck going 65 miles an hour. So, at first it terrified me. And even though I had gone through the classroom, right, of the driving instructor doing all the lessons and things on what to expect, even going through the road test and doing all the things, there was nothing that could replace being in that driver's seat. And the way that I became better was being in that driver's seat, facing the Mack truck myself, and finding a way to maneuver and time it myself. And no one else could really tell me how to feel. The only way to learn it is to do it.
You have such great analogies. That's a perfect analogy.
Thank you.
Going back to avoiding and just lack of confidence. So having the fear stand in your way, you just have to face your fears. I avoided video for a long time, and then now we're doing this. So, this has been my start to facing that fear. Um, and you can't let it stand in your way. So another coach that I'm working with, she used the example of situations that you're dealing with, whether it be, again, life or business, that you wouldn't stop at a speed bump. You would just go slowly and move forward and continue on and not let it stop you in your way. So that one sits with me all the time as a good example of, we don't let these things get in our way and stop us. Maybe there's times where you need a short pause, and that's okay. I've had to learn that, maybe I don't go to this networking meeting today. I've been doing it consistently. I've been making connections. Today I just need a little bit of extra time to sit in whatever's going on, whether that be a personal situation or in my business. Sometimes you could take a short pause as long as you're still taking action and being consistent as much as you possibly can. And if you're doing the best that you can, that's really all you can do. As long as you're taking those most important income producing actions or whatever it may be, entrepreneurship is not for the weak. I actually might have mentioned it before. I made a post with that once and it got over 200,000 views. And that was just totally unexpected. And so that's an example right there. Just keep posting twice a week. It exposes who you are, your brand, positions you as an expert, and all of that. Just take the action. Even if, one post flopped and you think it failed, just keep doing it consistently because it will come around. You just never know. You might have a post that has over 200,000 views and you didn't expect it. So, anything else you'd like to add? I think we could go with a lot of different directions with this conversation, and you have such great analogies. Any other analogies or quotes or ideas you'd like to share today?
Ooh, for those of us that if we're new to the entrepreneurship journey, or if we've been on it for a while, but failure is one of those things that's a kryptonite, I encourage you to keep going because there are so many people in history who are legends that if they would have stopped even one experiment short of arriving to the solution, then we wouldn't have that. A great example would be Thomas Edison. He said, I found 10,000 ways how it didn't work for a light bulb. Could you imagine life without bulbs today? I mean, there's bulbs everywhere, right? And there's technology that lighting things is included. Just look at our phones, right? And so continue to keep going, shift your perspective. If you're not sure what a fixed mindset is, check it out. There's a great book by Brett Gleason, and it's called Embrace the Suck, the Navy
Nice.
SEAL way of to an extraordinary life. And in there, they highlight towards the beginning of the book, talking about the fixed mindset versus the growth mindset. And for those of us where failure has become a part of our name, and we're just struggling, man, highly encourage you check that book out, because what it will do is encourage you to shift your perspective to, instead of viewing failure as the worst possible thing that could happen to you, use it as your fuel, your ingredient to keep it moving and say, oh, if there's failure, great, let's get some more of that, because then I can move forward. And it's shifting your perspective on adversity to have more growth in your life.
That's awesome. I haven't heard of that book before, and there's so many great ones out there that I continue to just add to the list. There's so many great ones out there. Um, I didn't really ever know about that concept either before going into entrepreneurship about a fixed versus growth mindset. And that's actually when I was introduced to my business, what my mentor also told me about, that I had to kind of look within myself to decide to take the leap into this journey as well. That I do love helping people in any way possible. And I do really enjoy learning and growing and helping other people learn and grow. And so that's one of the things that I was like, oh, I can do this. I already talk to people for a living all day already. I love having conversations and listening to people's stories. I didn't know what a fixed versus growth mindset was. And I was like, oh, I'm totally that. I have a growth mindset. So that's one of the features of stepping into entrepreneurship that is really a root of what you're doing when you start in this type of business. And you'll continue to explore as you grow and learn, that you have to keep going with that and keep growing in your mindset as things change. You have to look at, okay, this worked for now, and I did this for 3 months, but now it's time to shift. What else can I do in my strategy with my business, whether that be your marketing strategy or whatever? You have to learn to shift and change. At some things work for a while and then they don't. They change, and you need to maybe change direction. So yeah, I think that all of this hopefully is super helpful to those that are listening. Um, Check us out on LinkedIn, Sarah Piedrahita. I'm Jen Carpenter. Please connect with us on LinkedIn. And this is on my YouTube channel, Jen Carpenter Secure and Savvy Solutions. So we release a video topic in the beginning of each month, the first week, and just to add value and support and inspire and impact entrepreneurs and small business owners. So we hope this has been super helpful, and you'll have to catch us next month. We will decide on our topic and release the first week of July as well. Anything else you'd like to add, Sarah?
Nope, we'll see you next month.
Awesome. Have a great rest of your day.